Hello, everyone. My name is Linus Woods-Mullins, and I am here today with Beverly. Just to introduce her, I am her online media strategist and also happen to be a wellness coach. And I'm so excited today about what you're going to be talking about, Beverly, on Mindfulness Monday. What's the topic today?
Today is clearing some of the clutter in your mind.
Clearing some of the clutter in your mind. I can definitely use some tips about that. And I'm sure many of us can do that. In fact, that might be why some of you have joined Beverly's group, is to find some preventative measures to not suffer from all the symptoms of combat or compassion fatigue. Oh, combat fatigue, compassion fatigue.
Yes, it is.
It's kind of like that too. But thanks so much for joining us. And Beverly, you're on.
Thank you, Linus. Good morning to you and good morning to everyone. So let's begin. To say that we're overwhelmed is an understatement in the era of COVID-19, balancing the multiple tasks of our jobs, whether we're working on site or off site, and we're doing it with no playbook on how to do this. This is truly a new thing. The complex decisions regarding self-quarantine, shelter in place, social distancing, and sifting through confusing, conflicting, and incomplete information on keeping our families and ourselves safe from exposure and safe from infection. This is like an encapsulating way of this saying it in an overview. But in truth, there are a million pieces to this puzzles that we're trying to maneuver through, navigate through every day, all day. In reality, our minds are just flooded with too much non-static details. It's coming in, trying to figure it out, and a whole lot of unanswered questions. And that's really, really hard for adults. It's hard for kids too, but it's hard for adults who have the responsibility of managing things and planning for things. So I want to talk to you about this. One of the major memory banks in the brain is a system called the hippocampus. And when it's flooded with the stress hormone, which we are flooded with all the time, we were before COVID-19, we are really flooded with the stress hormone now, as it shows up in the line of work services, care providers and caretakers, even for family members, but service providers, whether it's rescue and children and family services, recovery kinds of services, the healing practices. When we're flooded to the extent that we are, there's four primary functions in that part of the brain that are critical for us to manage all of our lives and to be able to navigate life in a planful, thoughtful way. The hippocampus is responsible for our critical thinking, our rational thinking, our problem solving, and watch this now, short-term memories. In fact, when you're flooded with the stress hormone, because there's stuff constantly coming at us, they say that the hippocampus is kind of hijacked. That's a temporary state where that stuff is just not functioning. We're going to be very, very forgetful, distracted, unfocused, hard to hold on, don't do our best thinking, can't remember what to do from one moment to the next. There are a number of strategies that we employ to calm ourselves so that we can reduce much of the mental and emotional exhaustion that we're experiencing. I'm hearing this all over. You know, I work in several states, several counties, several cities, but there's an increasing amount of what we call emotional exhaustion. I think I said to you last week, physical exhaustion is difficult to deal with, yet you could get a second wind. But when there's emotional exhaustion, we begin to slide into something that I like to call a bit of a depressed state because of the heightened sense of overwhelm. Now that's initially, but to continue with that kind of stress, that kind of state of overwhelm chronically, the depression could become increasingly worse, and we want to prevent that. I'm saying stop the slide. Free some of the clutter from your mind so that you could better make room for peace and for wellness. I want to suggest two simple strategies, and I mean these are really, really simple, but they're can be so effective to help you unclutter your mind and gradually be able to operate your life under so much, well, less of the overload that we are feeling. We will be able to manage the stress coming at us daily, but this time within a window of tolerance. See, there's also two other states. There's a state of dysregulation in a state of regulation. This regulation says that the stress that comes is outside of our window of tolerance, and we don't handle it as well and as mindful as we normally would. But when you're regulated, the stress will come because we're in a difficult time. Things are changing, things are shifting, and there's no notice of when this is going to end. But if you're regulated, then it's within a window of tolerance for you to figure out what to do, provided you go through certain steps and use certain strategies to help yourself kind of calm and clear some of that stress hormone, slow it down from flooding into your brain systems. One of them, and perhaps the most simple one, some of you may be doing this to some extent, but I'm going to talk to the power up, and it's simply called making a list. Making a list. See, we are very cerebral people in the way we manage our lives, the lives of our clients, the lives of our patients. We're cerebral. And I'm saying with all of those factors, all of those pieces, all of those details, vast amounts of data you hold for the lives of others as well as your own and your own family, it just overwhelms some. But if you could take some of that out of your mind and put it on paper, see, what's important to us is that things do not fall through the crack. They don't get dropped by the wayside, or that we don't forget about it. But when you're holding on to it, your brain stays in a kind of dialogue and is repeating it and is repeating it and is repeating it. And as more comes in, you're just in, it's just incredibly overwhelming. I know I'm saying that over and over again, but the flooding sensation, it reduces our capacity to think clearly, to plan clearly, and not being in such an acute state of distress because things still coming. Put it on paper. Make the list. Make the list. Take it out of your head so that it's safe. It will not fall through the cracks. I make a variety of lists daily. At the end of the day, what I call the end of the day, always make a to-do list for the next day. Those things that I didn't get through. I come to the desk. When I wake up in the morning, I think of several other things that I want to do in a given day. And so I put that on the list. Now, I do kind of organize my list in these ways, that I put the absolutely essential things that have a timeline that I can't get away from, a must address. They kind of go on there first. And then I may use a second piece of paper and put down those things that are essential, but not that quite important. In other words, I got some time fluctuation and I could get to it. And see what I like about that, because as you're working on something throughout the day, particularly those of us who are sheltered in place with family, you got kids, there's lots of distractions also with the work that we do. We could get a sudden call, a sudden emergency, and that's another distraction. But if it's on a list, you don't try to hold on to all of it together. So I use variety kinds of papers. It's like my master list of the things that are undone that I must do. And this is a kind of like a secondary list of the things that are important I'll get to. And also, sometimes I even think of some things I want to get from the store, some things I want to get from the pharmacy, and I just put on a little sticky. These are the things I got to do. Also, we get ideas, sudden ideas. It's something that comes to you that you forgot about and say, ooh, but it's important. So you could decide how important it is. And I'm not necessarily saying rewrite your list all day, but I may decide to number on the same page that I need to get this done, number one, and I'm going to work on this number two, and kind of just alter and rearrange and reorganize that as the day goes through. Let me tell you something else. The brain loves to see some check marks. So just checking something off, it really kind of jazzes me. And then when it gets a little bit too much clutter of checks and crossing outs, then I may put it on a fresh piece of paper. Do what you could do, but put it on the paper so that it's safe. Take some of it out of your head so that you can focus on what's most important at a given time. Now, here's one more thing. When you make that list, put you on the list. I believe it or not. I could so be consumed with the nature of this work. There's so many hours goes by and I didn't get back to me on my list. Sometimes I just say I'm going to remember to do my little walking meditation. I'm going to remember to get up and take a stretch. I'm going to remember to make a call. I got to check in on somebody or something like that. Put you on a list. That's a priority. Kind of factor that in. And the fact that it's there, even though you could get consumed and caught up in the work of the day, you won't forget, because you'll look down and it's still there. And I says, oh, I didn't stretch. I didn't take my walk. So do what you could do for your list. That's just one strategy. That's one suggestion, that when things are safely captured on paper, it lends an opportunity for you to regain some level of peace. And as I say, wellness. Now, the second thing I want to suggest, it moves into the area of our cognitive thinking processes. I want you to consider that it's good to be aware of when you have maximum energy, maximum focus, at what points of the day that's working for you. I do most of my intense work that requires a lot of concentration and mental thinking, some really powerful decisions that I need to make. For me, it'd be in the earlier part of the day because that's when I'm sharpest. My mind is clear and I could think. This stuff that is not quite as critical. Matter of fact, I could even deal with a whole lot of distractions going around if that was the case. That's kind of secondary for me, but I schedule myself accordingly. Here's an example. I could look at an email that came in. I get emails from all over the country requesting some work, but there's also a lot of tasks and pieces involved in the work. And so somebody could ask me to do something, to prepare this, another summary, another executive, something, whatever the case is. And when I look at that email, when I'm tired and low energy, it seems like an insurmountable task that I cannot focus on. And it seems, oh, it's too much, it's too much. Yet I did learn a while back that if I look at that same email, when I have my higher energy, usually for me, again, that's early in the day, in the morning, even late morning, that same email, that task is not such a big thing. It's not insurmountable. As a matter of fact, it's kind of simple, and I know exactly where to go to look for the information I already have to do it. That's what I'm pointing out to you. Stop and do a lot of self-reflection about that. Become aware of when you're sharpest. This will eliminate a lot of the exhaustion we feel of trying to push through to get something done when your brain is not cooperating with you. So those are basically my suggestions. To pick the time, pick the best time, organize your day and reorganize your day over and over. That's what we have to do because there's a lot of newness with the COVID situation that we are experiencing. But do it so that you're at your sharpest and you know when it is and you get stuff knocked out really quickly. And when it begins to wane, that's the time for you to begin to slow down and make some other decisions. And now watch this. If you have it on a list, you could decide, oh, this could really wait till tomorrow or wait till another day in the week. So those are my suggestions. I hope that they work for me and I hope that they work for you as well. Give it a try.
You know, Beverly, I love all those suggestions. In fact, I had some confirmations like, yes, because I am a huge list maker. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's on my list. And you're right about the check marks, but I didn't know why it was that way. So the brain loves the idea of completing something or just seeing that check mark.
It charges up. It feels so jazzed up and so relieved that there's one less thing. And the check marks let you know, I'm not under that much pressure. The brain responds to that and the body responds to the brain.
Okay, well, that explains why I feel such a sense of completion when I'm able to put, what I do is I put a hashtag when I've started it and then a cross when it's completed, you know? And at the end of the day, I look at all that I've done because, you know, you want to feel a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day. And one of the things that I would add to your esteemed list is however it ends up, whatever you get done, you want to celebrate yourself and those accomplishments that you've gotten. You know, we don't want to take those things for granted because you could have not gotten them down. So, and this is coming from the wellness perspective, since I'm a wellness coach, the whole idea of celebrating your successes, not taking that for granted. Don't expect the celebration to come from anywhere else because many times people don't even understand what it took for you to get that thing off your list. They don't get it. You know, you're like, oh my gosh, this happened. And they're like, okay, so you know, but you know what it took to get there. So I would just add, celebrate yourself. You know, at the end of the day, take a look at what you've done that's great.
It's a sad thing to get to the end of the day and feel like you haven't accomplished nothing. And that's what gets to happen very often when you don't have those check marks. We know we're tired, but we don't even know why.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you. And Beverly, I know you have something really exciting to share with the group. I'm very excited about it. Please share it.
Making an announcement. We were looking at ways, Linus and I were brainstorming because she's such a genius at this strategizing, how to get people more engaged. I believe in the power of communication for connection. And so we had started the Facebook thing and people were kind of responding. Some were and a lot weren't, but people need to talk. People need to hear. So starting tomorrow, we're putting out some question statements for people to kind of respond to talk about, to think about, to see where it resonates with them, what they relate to. Um, and it's called Let's Talk. Let's Talk Real. Let's Talk Real. Now, the real is an acronym that stands for release. You know how what I believe, but get stuff off your chest. Just kind of relieve yourself. Don't let it build up. The E is evolve. Evolve. This, if nothing else, this situation is forcing some of us and causing some of us to figure out how to evolve. And maybe we're evolving and don't even realize it because we've had to really make a lot of changes and step up to the plate so that we can survive in this situation. Then the A is for, what is the A for?
Adjust. Adjust.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I don't like people to say I'm fine when you ask you how you do. And I go, rarely do I go to the market or I go to my doctor. Some people say, well, how you doing? I say, I'm adjusting every day. That's inclusive of the fact that some days are better than the others, but the adjustment that we're making, how are we doing it? What is it taking? What does it mean? How does it translate? And then the L is we're still living. We had a major slam. Everything was dismantled. And yet we're still putting one foot in front of the other. And we would like to hear from all of us, all of you. How do we do the real? How do we do the real? So let's start talks tomorrow. What time is that?
Well, I'm going to post. Actually, I'm going to post the question tomorrow morning around 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that would be 3:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So for most of you on the West Coast, when you wake up, the first question will be there. I'm going to encourage you to please, let your feelings flow and share with us. And Beverly will be on responding to those things. And we're going to be doing this on a regular basis because we really want this to be an interactive group where you can not only get some nuggets, but also grow just with the whole idea of interacting with each other and sharing, exchanging ideas. And I think in this particular environment that we're in right now, we need to find whatever creative ways that we can to keep the conversation going, to not isolate, not self-select out, but still keep interacting with each other and supporting each other. The majority of the people who belong to this group are people who are human service professionals, first responders, doctors, nurses, policemen, firemen, people who are always taking care of others. Yes.
We need to hear from each other.
Right.
I'm also working with a great deal of parents all over, and we could all get some insights, some input, some suggestions on how we're managing our children now that many of us know that some of the schools will not be open, and we have some decisions to make about the safety factors. But let's communicate, let's be connected, let's engage on, let's talk the real.
All right.
That I'm going to sign off for this morning. Thank you, Linus. Thank all of you who are on and listening for joining us on Mindfulness Monday. And see you next week, same time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.